These are the big four. Asana, G Suite, Slack, and Zapier are probably the biggest four apps that we use on a day-to-day basis.
You are now listening to the Creative Juice podcast brought to you by Indepreneur.io.
What's up, Indies? Welcome back to the Creative Juice podcast. I am your host, Circa. With me, as always, is Corrin. How are we doing today, Corrin?
Jazz fingers. I'm great. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm very well. This is actually the first podcast that we're actually recording for video so that we can post it to our brand new YouTube channel, Full Stack Creative. So if you haven't heard about it yet, we just launched a YouTube channel for two reasons. Number one is indies have been asking about, like, what about YouTube since we started? And we've always kind of had to say, like, yeah, YouTube is tight. It's just that it's a little bit more expensive. Therefore, it's not the first thing we're going to recommend and teach about. But it is tight, and we do know that it is tight. And so we have now this channel to launch and test out and try out different things and report them back to the indie community. We also have it just as a way of getting out more tutorials, more reviews, more information about full stack creativity. So not only music, but videography and graphic design and entrepreneurship and just everything artistic, which is growing by leaps and bounds these days. The average person, such as myself or Corrin, can pick up any creative pursuit in a very short time frame and be really good at it within that time frame. I think the 80-20 rule applies here, where 20% of the effort will get you 80% of the results. That's especially true in creativity now. So this channel seeks to sort of serve that widening space, which is full stack creativity, kind of having a hand in every art. And I'm super excited about it. So if you haven't checked that out yet, please go to Indepreneur.io/episode 78. And in the show notes, we'll have a big link at the bottom for you guys to go check out all the content we've been dropping over there.
Yeah, I think it's cool because the more things that we kind of build out for, like, all of the things, right? I mean, we talk about that all the time, how musicians have to do so many things. And so, we figured that we may as well start kind of expanding into some of these things that everybody thinks they're like, oh yeah, YouTube, I'll post my stuff there. I'll post a link on Facebook, which no one will see because Facebook won't send people to YouTube, and then people will watch my video, And so I think it's kind of for us, it's a cool challenge. I know, Cirque, you set yourself up to I'm going to do all these things. And this is a very typical dynamic between Cirque and I, is that I'm always like, well, let's plan and let's make a spreadsheet, and we may never even start it. And then Cirque's like, I'm already 10 feet deep in the pool. Where are you? So I think it's exciting.
Yeah, it's like you have the plan but don't start. I have the start but don't plan. Both of the extremes are bad, and we meet in the middle.
Right. We've been meeting in the middle more and more, I think. But on this one, video is definitely, I think it's something that a lot of people are really freaked out about. And I can tell because of different consults that we've worked on or different artists we've worked with, and, putting your face on a thing and just letting yourself be vulnerable is a challenge. And it's a challenge for me. Like, even right now, I'm like, is my mascara on right? Like, do I look like
what do
crap?
I do with my hands?
Yeah. Where do I look? We did a trial of this last week, and I was like, should I look at the camera or should I, And so it was incredibly awkward. I couldn't even keep my train of thought. Even as I was editing the podcast, I was like, yep, right there. I was distracted by the fact I could see myself on the screen, So anyway, this episode isn't about video, but I think I'm glad that as a company, we're diving into it, because I think it's something that is very challenging, especially for the artists who work with us who don't tour and, aren't planning on touring. They're not necessarily ready to be forward facing all the time. And it's hard to learn how to be forward facing and then learn how to be forward facing, but authentic and not overly packaged, and that's a skill set. And if anything, Cirque is great at just I'm just going to put this out there and not be all anxious about if it's perfect or if I look perfect or whatever, and see what sticks, you know? And so I'm glad that you're leading the charge on that. I know I definitely wouldn't be the guy to do that. But I think it'll like bring kind of that, even more of that jack of all trades to the front. So you don't have to feel master of none, right? Just because you're doing all these different things. And so if we're preaching it, we need to be doing it, you know? So that's kind of, I'm excited about that.
Yeah. I'm super psyched about it. It also gives me a chance to like, actually figure out what to recommend in terms of growing a YouTube channel and what to recommend in terms of getting good video and live streaming like we have the capability to do here, you know. This pretty much how we're recording this is exactly how we would live stream it, and we're doing live streams now. So getting all that out to be able to facilitate, like someone's like, I'm a musician, I don't know how to make content. It's like, well, we can help with that too. So I'm super excited about that. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. Even if you are watching this on YouTube, what we are here to talk about is entrepreneurial mindsets and processes, which is what this month of January is all about for us here at Indepreneur. And this corresponds to a training we have available in our Indie Pro membership area right now. So if you're seeing this, you can go to indepreneur.io/trainings and log in if you're an Indie Pro member, or you can purchase the membership, or rather purchase the training standalone, which, you know, I would recommend going for Indie Pro because it gives you all the trainings. But if you're that kind of person who's like, look, I just want to buy this one thing and then maybe later I'll check out what else you guys got, then you can absolutely go to indepreneur.io/episode 78. In the show notes, we'll have links to this training, but basically teaches you how do we run our business and as a model for how you can run your artistic business. I think running a business doesn't come intuitive to us creative people, and it's definitely interesting. You can get into it just like you get into creating music, but it takes that initial, like, what do I do kind of phase. So the training serves to facilitate that. And in the training, we recommend a bunch of tools that we're going to talk about today. This episode is all about the tools that make modern online businesses run and how you can use and implement them. So we're going to be breaking down a number of our favorite tools that we use every day here at Indepreneur. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, these have become so much a part of my life that when we have agency clients who like don't like working in them, it throws me off because I'm so used to looking in one place. I'm like, this is what I do. And it's funny because I started, I'm going to preview a little, but we're going to talk about Asana. But like I used to work in Asana even before I came here. In fact, you guys were working in Trello before I came here, right? And I was like, hey, can we use Asana? Yeah. That was my idea. But, you know, I mean, they're both great, but Asana I definitely like for different reasons. But so I was using Asana with my other clients, and one day it went down on a Monday for like 2 hours. And I thought everyone I knew who worked was going to lose their just ever loving mind because they're like, Asana's down. I have no idea what I'm going to do. Like, how do I even react to the world? All I know to do is to feed my cat this morning, and now I'm done. I don't know what else. Like, you're so dependent on it that it ends up becoming the only way you know how to function. And so that can be, you know, that could be a negative thing, but I think Asana's downtime is like almost never. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely, you know, these tools have become the things that I'm like, okay, even before I'm awake, you know, I get my coffee, I sit down at my computer and I'm like, what am I doing today? And I'm like, oh, I'm going to look in Asana because that's what I'm doing today. So it definitely, same as we were talking about in the last episode, like picking up where you left off, right? You don't have to keep your brain heavy with all the things that you didn't get done or all the things that you need to do later because they're saved in this safe space and you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. And we're going to pull up. Oh, I'm sharing it. We're going to pull up Asana for everyone watching on YouTube. So for our listeners, if you hear us talking about something, you can check it out on YouTube. We'll have it up. But yeah, so this is like our Asana board. This is the home screen for it. And there's just, you know, it's a task list on steroids. So we talked a little bit about it last episode, but you want to know what all the things you have to do in your business are for as far out into the future as you can project or as it's feasible to project. Real businesses know what needs to get done every day, and they're not fumbling for that task every time they on-ramp to a work period. And we talked last episode about if you got those 2 hours a day and you're doing a 9 to 5, you need to know exactly what's getting done in those 2 hours, more even than a business, because you're short on time. So Asana allows you to, I mean, it can operate just like a to-do list. And if you want it to be that simple, it can be that simple. We operate it with a Japanese manufacturing process called Kanban, which is very popular among software development teams, among, small team businesses, is a left to right kind of lists and cards view. So I'm going to show you guys, actually, for the YouTube viewers, a Kanban board for one of our projects within our company. So if I click here on content, right, we've got our resources list, which, it's a static list, right? So there's things in here that we need frequently, links, different color codes, branding, stuff like that, just links to stuff. But then here begins the Kanban system. So we've got backlog, which is tasks we know need to get done eventually, but maybe not right now. Then we have next sprint, which is tasks that need to get done next week. That's like the batter's box, the on deck for tasks in the business. Then there's this sprint, which is this week. All these cards need to move. Everything in this sprint needs to get out of this sprint. And when we finish a task, like, for instance, I've got this blog article due tomorrow. I'll open it. I'll put a deliverable here in the card, and then I will move it over to QA, which is quality assurance. And then I'll reassign it to a team member like Corrin or Jack, and they can check my work while it's in QA. And if it's done, then they can move it over to done. So tasks move from left to right. And this is what Kanban is all about. And for every project in our company, whether it's content, marketing, our product / website, the support, all the support we're running, or any of our agency clients, we've got a Kanban board set up to keep management of all those tasks. And Asana is badass because not only does it have all these lists that you can create, this board view, and it has robust card functionality. So every card can have subtasks. You could have a whole project be one card that's moving through various stages of completion along the list. And that's kind of like, that's the baked in functionality, but then there's all these integrations you get. So you can have Asana communicate with every other app that you're working with, whether it be through a native integration or through Zapier, which we'll talk about a little bit later on in this episode. But if you've been paying attention to us for any amount of time, you know what Zapier is.
Right.
But yeah, like it can just be, it can be as simple as a to-do list. It can be as complex as something that automatically runs your whole business and manages, 20 employees at the same time. So it's very scalable, and it's how we keep our heads on straight here at Indepreneur.
Yeah, I think it's really, it's necessary to have something like this. And it's funny, it's similarly to, we were talking about the differences between Circa and I. Like, one of the things that I do in my cards is I create tasks and then subtasks and then subtasks and then subtasks of each of those tasks, and so, but what it does do is it allows you to create, whatever kind of zoomed out vision that you want. So if you want to have each individual thing that you need to do an individual card, you can. Or if you're like, okay, I know that I want to ship the album artwork for this project. Like, there are things that have to happen within that, and then sub things after that, and having dates that all trigger and whatever. So I definitely think that it just helps you keep your brain, on a focused path. But again, like, saves it in a spot so that when you close that card, you're not thinking about that anymore. I think that's really essential to just keeping your mind ready to pivot, which is what we have to do all the time as entrepreneurs and as musicians.
Yeah, I think even just to have the functionality of being able to say, hey, this task is done, I don't need to re-examine. Like, if you're not running task management at all, even if you finish something, it might still be holding real estate in your mind, which is making you less capable of doing other things. So even just for that function, which is very simple, just marking things done, yeah, I think I could handle it. But even just for that, it can make a huge difference in how you run things. So we wouldn't be able to operate. I mean, Jack right now is overseeing like 8 agency accounts or something. That would not be possible without Asana. So we got to give big ups.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and its first layer is free. So there are a lot of upsells in it if you want, but it's really functional at the free level. Not like some of these where it's like, hey, you can log in and that's free. And then everything else you have to pay money for. It's very functional at the free level, which is why it's a great tool for musicians. And then, if you're building out a team, it's really easy to just invite people in, only share certain content with them, whatever, it's something that's scalable, but you don't have to pay for it off the cuff.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's badass. Another thing that's free at the top level is Slack. So Asana manages all our tasks. It also has automation baked in, which we'll talk about when we talk about Zapier, but Slack allows us to not be on this or this, the computer for communication on Facebook or wherever there's a ton of other messages going on, or the cell phone. And that's because especially it starts off slow, but as things ramp up for any entrepreneur, these channels become unmanageable, right? You're going to be getting phone calls and texts and emails and notifications all day. Going through and silencing them would take you away from your business for a full 2 days, and you just can't do that. And Facebook and all these social media channels are just flooded. So you need a communication application. And at the very simplest level, Slack is that. It allows you to have a clean, organization-specific communication channel. So you can talk to the rest of your team and there's no one else invited, right? And that's great for clarity. If you are going to be having clients in a business, that's great because you can give them their own Slack channel. But I'm going to show you guys Slack. This is Nino Bless's channel. So these are automated sales messages that come in through Zapier whenever a sale occurs on certain parts of Nino's website. But the only people who have access here are myself, Corrin, and Nino. So there's not a whole bunch of clutter. If Nino needs to talk to either of us, it would be right here. And that's just to show you an example of a Slack channel. We have 20 Slack channels. So we have channels for just our team, myself, Corrin, Jack, Ed, Kenny, and Cup and Iggy are all in that gang channel is what we call it. Then we have a channel for retro, our retro meeting where we go over any major challenges of the week and action items to make sure they don't happen again. Then we have a stand-ups channel where we post our daily stand-ups, what we're going to get done today. And then we have a channel for every client in the agency. Every testing grounds artist has their own channel. And this allows us to keep communication well organized and free from clutter and outside distractions, which especially as you go on in your entrepreneurial journey, it starts out like, I can manage this stuff. People are crazy. That's what I said. I was like, people, they're just pansies, right? Like Facebook's
they're
not
just
too difficult,
over structuring everything. That's what a lot of people think.
Yeah. I totally doubted them, but it's true. As you go on, you need to start to clear away clutter from your mind. So far that I've deleted the Facebook app off my phone just because I can't afford it anymore. It's just too much. I will check it and I will scroll it, and I need the time in my brain because the business has now grown to a point where it demands so much of my attention. So I think, even if you don't think you'll need something like Slack now, you will, and it will make things a whole lot saner. And that's just scratching the surface because obviously there's all the automation available in Slack.
Right. Yeah. Well, and two, like for Slack, it's great for me because especially with clients or, people that I only want to have access to me a certain window of the day, like when you send out a text message to somebody or a Facebook message to somebody or whatever, there may or may not be a read receipt on it, but there's kind of this, there's a sense of urgency that we've learned with these things where you don't let those sit, right? Like if somebody texts you, you text them back.
Right.
Now, some of you might be skilled at this because I definitely have friends who are skilled at this who are like, oh yeah, I'll get back to that later. And then they won't respond. But we live in such a world where it's like reactions. And, oh, you posted yesterday? That's old news. Okay, next thing. And so since we live in that kind of paced life, there's a lot of people that if you ignore a text or don't respond to a Facebook message, it gives you like anxiety and a little pit in your stomach. And I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
So Slack allows me to like set my status to away, right? So that it's very clear to clients that like, hey, I'm not here right now. So it allows me to kind of put up that little like, oh, hey, I'm sleeping, as much as I want to work on your stuff 24/7, which I do, but like I also need to sleep, and so I think that there's this cool stuff that happens in Slack, and I can already tell that Circa is like dying to get into some of the automations, but it triggers like if somebody applies for IndieX, if somebody applies for our Spotify playlist, if somebody buys something in some of our channels, it'll tell us that. And it tells us some things that basically it's either just good to know or it's something that requires action, right?
Yeah.
But either way, it helps us kind of see a quick blip of what's going on without feeling like you have to change like railroad tracks in your brain. Like, okay, I see that there, and it doesn't give me the anxiety that like an unanswered text or an unanswered Facebook message does.
Yeah. And Slack has native integrations with a lot of productivity tools, including Asana. It also has third-party integrations, which you can connect through Zapier. So anything that connects to Zapier can connect to Slack. And so the point being, and I think Corrin made it perfectly, is that there are so many things that you need to know about. But if you have to hop from platform to platform and context switch to get every notification that's important to you, you're going to waste a lot of time. So you can have all roads lead to Slack so that every little bright red bubble and buzz that you need to know about can come to Slack and everything else gets ignored. And that's critical. You can even have it so that maybe you're getting notifications. You can also make changes. So for instance, you might have all of your Google Calendar notifications just come to Slack from now on, but you can also integrate out so that you can set calendar notifications or make changes to calendar events just by typing a line of text into Slack. And that's crazy, which means you don't ever have to leave this one platform to get everything done throughout the day that you need. And that's crucial. Even Asana can integrate in so that all your Asana tasks are sent to you every morning in Slack. I haven't gone so far as to do that yet, but that just kind of shows you the capability it has.
Yeah, definitely. And it's funny because like there's a lot of notifications, like, Apple's trying to do the most all the time. And like, oh, it'll notify you about this, right? And essentially what I've done is turned off my iPhone notifications. And instead in Slack, I get like a weather update, like an umbrella alert if I'm going to need an umbrella. Not that I ever leave the house, but if I did, or, whatever else it is that the different things that I need to know for the day. And I do have it send me a calendar summary as well. And that's just so that I know what the heck is going on. And so since we post our stand-ups in Slack, and since, Asana is a thing, right? Those two tools together, if I check in with those two things at the beginning of the day, I know exactly what I'm doing. And that it's such clarity in your brain. And then you're like, okay, dig on in, So I replaced most of my iPhone notifications with Slack notifications once we started using it more.
Yeah, it's super helpful. And between Slack and Asana, like I'd say that those apps take care of a majority of the time wasting and attention wasting things that happen to, entrepreneurs just starting out is, like you need to know what you need to do and when it needs to get done and how it's progressing. And then you need to lock down what's demanding your attention. So that means messages and notifications. Then we get into an area of productivity tools that kind of just makes things easier. And I know that, for anyone who's around my age or older, for the longest time, it's been like Microsoft Office products, right? You've got your Excel spreadsheets, your Word documents, you've got your PowerPoint presentations and all that. Yeah, exactly.
Well, especially like Microsoft's gone cloud now, man. Like everything that like if you want to run Excel on your computer, now it's cloud, which means it takes up a crap ton of RAM. And I'm speaking about that because I just had to move from a laptop to a tower because I'm like, I can't run, like Creative Cloud is obviously cloud, and Microsoft Office is now cloud, and it automatically installs all these applications I don't use. Yeah. I'm like, this boo on that, man. Like, no. So Google is like cray. It's so much better. And it can save links and files so much easier, and it doesn't take 15 minutes to open and download updates, So I'm all about where you're going, man.
Yeah. Microsoft never got the memo, but like Google ate their lunch about 10 years ago when they rolled out pretty much like a replication of every Microsoft Office product in Google's ecosystem. So you got your Gmail for Outlook. You've got Google Calendar for Outlook's calendar functionality. You've got Hangouts for video conferencing, which is, I guess, Skype. You've got spreadsheets, forms, and documents, all of which used to be taken care of in Microsoft Office products. So it just runs the gambit of everything Microsoft Office did. Google now does in Google's framework, and it's all corresponding to your Gmail account. So if you sign up for Gmail and you have @gmail.com on your email, you now have access to Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Forms, all of the things, right? And you have your own dedicated Google Calendar, and you log in with one login, which took Microsoft Office forever because they had just no cloud functionality. You also have Google Drive, which gives you a fair amount of storage for free, like a lot of storage for free. And it's guys, if you're out there using Dropbox, I hate you. No. but like Dropbox is just so so like people will send me Dropbox links and it's like, hey, I shared this with you, but it's like several files in a folder. And instead of being able to directly download it, I now have to add it to my Dropbox, which is out of space, and then download it. So if it's one file, I can download it directly. But if it's several files in a folder, I now have to clear space in my Dropbox or upgrade my Dropbox account to paid in order to get the files that a paid Dropbox user sent me. So fuck Dropbox. But that's my opinion on it. Dropbox just pisses me off.
I use Dropbox for just me, but I don't share things with just me. I'm me, but if you are sharing, like, well, I mean, I think that's the thing that really needs to be kind of drilled in is that there are aside from Google Drive and maybe a couple other services, like all of these, like Google applications are nada dollars, right? Like zero dinero. See how I Spanglish everything? But like that, there's not a ton of upsells in all of this stuff. And I think that's, as we keep talking about, like, people talk about, oh, this tech stack is getting so expensive. It's like, okay, well, find the tools that aren't going to cost you money. And like G Suite is definitely one of those things because outside of Drive upgrades, I'm not even sure what else there is that you can even like pay extra for in Google. All of this is free.
Yeah, I mean, the free option is powerful. I think we've spoken enough about that. But one thing I do want to recommend to those who are planning on starting a business around their artistry is to go to G Suite Professional. If you're an indie pro right now, so we get discount codes from G Suite as an affiliate, and we have to like re-up them. So we get like 5 discount codes at a time. So we keep those in a Google Sheets spreadsheet. And if you're an Indie Pro member, you can go to our Indie Deals section, access that spreadsheet, get your code, and get a discounted G Suite. So we've set that up for our Indie Pros, and it's worth it because when you you might sign up for Gmail and have all of these Google apps available with your single sign-on Gmail account. But what G Suite allows you to do is create domain email. So if I'm, one of my domains is somekidpunk.com. I can be circa at somekidpunk.com and log into Gmail with that, receive all my domain email to a Gmail interface, and log into all these productivity apps, Google Sheets,
Right.
Google Docs, Google Forms, with that single sign-on. And then if I add people to my organization, so I have Corrin at somekidpunk.com, she gets access to easy shareable access to all of my drive files. Furthermore, I have unlimited drive storage with G Suite Business, which is a godsend. I can back up my whole hard drive if I want to, and Google's not going to give me the third degree about it. They're not going to ask me for an upgrade if I want to share those folders with someone. So it's just badass, and it's worth it because you're bringing your domain email and your entire workspace. So if you're going to give domain email to team members, all under one house. So really limiting the amount of platform hopping that you need to do down to just a single sign-on, which is huge. It might not seem huge because of where you're at. You might be just starting out and it's like, I don't need all that, but you can scale with it. So you can build with a single G Suite account for $5 a month. I think discounted down 20% with that Indie Pro deal. And you can add users as you go along. It's a linear price scale, which is great. Yeah. It's so key. So that's why you would want it, is to really consolidate how much signing in and out you're doing, consolidate your sharing, consolidate the onboarding process for a new employee. I got to give them a G Suite. I got to give them a G Suite name, and that gives them access to like 50% of our business that we need to onboard them to.
Right. Well, also too, and visiting back to November when we were talking about email deliverability, you don't want to be sending from a Gmail account for your MailChimp because it just kills your open rate, it kills your send rate. So, for $5 a month, if I can, verify and also look more legit, right? It just does. And then you get all of that stuff with it. Like $5 for an official email may not seem worth it, but $5 for, oh, look, now I have a G Suite organization where all the things are gathered here and I don't have to have Microsoft Office. I don't have to have all of these other things, and I can save them all and not have to worry about upgrading a drive to save all my stuff. I mean, that's a really incredible tool.
Yeah. And there's very few storage companies that will give you unlimited cloud storage for $10 a month. Very few. So
and it's fast as hell because it's on Google servers.
Yeah.
So it's not, sometimes Google Drive uploads, I'm like, it's a little slow, but otherwise, it doesn't take all of this time to open, edit, or save a file. It's just quick, and I can bookmark it in my browser. I don't have to open another application. It's more on the same line of conversation where it's like, okay, do I need to totally context switch to check something right quick, And no, you don't, because you can just bookmark it and get out.
Yeah. Yep. And to kind of give you guys an example, actually, I'll wait till we talk about this to give you an example. So G Suite's worth it. G Suite's worth it, and if you're an Indie Pro, you have access to discounted G Suite that's pretty exclusive, and we use the shit out of our G Suite.
Yeah, I've never heard of anybody giving a discount on G Suite.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
how'd you
we fought hard
out?
for that. There's an affiliate program that's a little bit hidden. And then we just have to have this infrastructure of updating discount codes, which is not easy, but it's worth it. It's worth it if people out there are getting access to this.
Most definitely.
That said, I heavily recommend G Suite just as you want to start off in one place and not have to move as much as possible. So starting off in that infrastructure is going to be best. So bringing all these apps together under one house, Asana can natively integrate with G Suite, as can Slack. But in any way that they don't integrate that you want them to, you can use Zapier. Now, we've talked a lot about Zapier before. Yeah, we've talked a lot about it before, but it's basically like a master key. Yeah, Zapier has an integration set with over 500 different applications. So pretty much any app that you could use integrates with Zapier. And then Zapier integrates with whatever you want that app to go to. So let's say, you want a new member joining your Facebook group to trigger a new task in Asana. Zapier can do that, right?
Right.
So we pay, what is it, like $150 a month for our Zapier account. We have that many Zaps now.
Right.
Worth every penny. Well, I can't think of many things I've bought before that are more worth it than Zapier. And I've said that for years, even back when I worked at a recording studio. Our whole booking system was managed off of Zapier. So we would get a call to come into the studio, like, I want to book some studio time. I would log into a Google form with G Suite on my Studio 18, email account. And I would go to this Google form that's like the booking request generator, right? And now I'm asking them, okay, what time? What's your artist name? What's your email? What's your phone number? And then I put in a price and all that. That then gets sent into this Google Sheet. So the Google form response gets stored in a Google Sheet. That triggers a Zap. So that's the trigger. A new response in that spreadsheet is a trigger to start a Zapier automation. And that Zapier automation then takes all the data from those spreadsheet columns and routes it into MailChimp to add them as an email subscriber, into QuickBooks in order to record the invoice and then the revenue. It tasks out the engineer for that recording time in Google Calendar. So it triggers this cascade of different actions in all these other apps. All I had to do was fill out that Google form, whereas before it would be like a half hour of scheduling and hunting down these people. So, and logging in and out of applications. So that's the power of Zapier. It can take a single entry point or trigger and trigger this cascade of actions in other applications. And that's what we use it for too. It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I think something that's cool about it too is that, especially somebody's like, what, you guys pay $150 a month or whatever. But for us, I mean, obviously we're a business and we're probably running a lot more than the standard musician. But like, think about if you could only get things that integrated with each other, right? Or there are certain things you can buy that, have different integrations. And so the number of tools that you can use that aren't through the roof expensive that have these integrations built in. And then also just like the dollars for your time, right? So like combined, paying that much for Zapier for us, it saves us way more than that amount of money in time and in, just stack bloat, right? Like having a bunch of things in our stack that we don't need because Zapier just does it. So I think that there's multiple reasons why that's a great idea. And, like if somebody applies for IndieX, for example, like not only does stuff happen, like it sends stuff to Asana, it gathers like their Spotify info and sends that over to us so that we can take a quick listen to a 30-second preview of their music at the same time, like it does so many things because of one action, right? And so, I mean, I geek out on it. And I know like now there's logic paths, right, Circa? Have you played with those yet?
Oh my God, yes. No, I haven't. I haven't played with them, but the second I saw it, I was like, I can consolidate 5 different Zaps down to one with this. Before it was like, so let's say we have our IndieX application form, right? And there's an option on it to say whether you are an artist or an artist manager or a label. And we don't want the Zap to do the exact same things for every one of those options. Before, we would have to create a Zap that has a filter in it that says, if this specific cell says artists, don't run this Zap because this is the manager version. And then we'd have an artist version that only lets it pass if it is artist. Now we can have a logic flow that consolidates those 3 options down into one Zapier automation, which is crazy, something that's been needed for so long. And Zapier listens to their customers, looks at how they're using the platform and implements, which is another great reason to go with Zapier. But just to give you an example of like the kind of stuff we can do with this is, someone onboards to IndieX, they secure their first retainer, and then on the thank you page for that order form, we have a questionnaire for them, it was before it was in Google Forms, and Corrin has moved it to Typeform, which gives us a little bit more options with creating it, the look, and we can do a few cool things with that. So now Typeform, they fill out that form, and it triggers a Zap. The Zapier then takes all that info and routes it into Asana, where it tasks out one of our team to create them an Asana board, create them a Slack channel, invite them to it, and then mark the task done. It also has them, I believe, do like some little manual things that Zapier can't necessarily do. Then when they mark that Asana task done, that's the trigger for another Zap, which finishes the rest of the onboarding process. So it kind of just goes to show you, like, Zapier pretty much, like, depending on how many IndieX clients we get in a month, that could be 8 to 10 hours of work that someone would have had to do that replaces it instantly. So its worth is sort of hard to pin down until you really become a power user and you can see, like, oh, I see. I'm saving like countless dozens of hours every month with this thing. It's hard to quantify until you really start using it.
Yeah, if you want to like trip out over it too, like go to Zapier, and I think there's on their blog, there's like an updates or whatever where they post like every new integration that's come in, and it'll trip you out how many things they connect to. And there's actually been times in my life where I've looked at that. I say that like it was 12 years ago. I mean, like in the last few months. But there's been times when I go to that blog and I look at things that they've added, and I'm like, I think I might have a use for that. That app sounds cool. You know what I mean? And I'll actually go look and see like the things that are being added to it. Are you scrolling through them right now?
Yeah. I was checking them out. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just kind of amazing, you know? So, I mean, yeah, we've talked about it a lot before, but, you know, even if like for us, it's like if something happens, not only can it trigger like, okay, so say somebody onboards to IndieX, it can create a folder for them where they put all of their stuff. It can send them a checklist via email of things to put in that folder. It can notify us when things have been put in that folder. And then it can send them like an email wrap up, like, okay, here's your Asana board. This is the link to your Asana board. This is the link to the Indepreneur Google Drive that's dedicated to you. And this, you know, and it can take all of that stuff and put it in an email and ship it out to them, you know? So like none of that has to be done manually anymore. And like we haven't even, I mean, with everything we do for Indepreneur, we haven't even explored like the full depths of the capability of Zapier, you know? So
I was just thinking like this year we should carve out some time for you to just like Corrin has 4 hours of Zapier and nerd out time each week.
I will happily do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like replace all the bullshit that we keep on doing like every week. You know, that's really what it's for, is like, what do you do every day that seems like a robot could do it? Zapier will do it, you know?
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
We love Zapier. We absolutely love it. And
can you tell?
It really, yeah. And also don't get worried. Like if you get into Zapier and you're like, what Zap should I create? It's like, start with the stuff that's tedious for you. And then also know like we're power Zapier users and we are only using 80, you know, I would say like 20% of the potential that we could use Zapier for in our business. Are we using it for? Do we lose sleep over it? No, we don't. You know, it's like we can only focus so much. We can only know so much. There's probably tons of stuff we're not maximizing. But just that 20% that we have automated is huge. It's a huge difference in our business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure. Game
Zapier
changing.
is worth it, I would say. Another cool Zap is whenever we have a client who's got a funnel running where there's a direct sales campaign that we're doing, we will have any new order trigger a Zap in the Slack channel for that client so that they know, hey, bing, 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 SalesBot is telling you when you're getting sales. And that's super cool, especially during an album launch when like the cart first opens and it's like every other minute is a sale. Yeah. It's a huge adrenaline rush. And
ting,
it's just like,
ting, ting.
You know, like just to kind of show you like
it's just some
it can
positive
be very
feedback for all the work that you've done. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, there's a little bot celebrating with you. And especially if you're like a solo artist and you have a family and you got a full-time job and whatever, and like you have done everything and lost sleep to launch this one thing, like nobody maybe around you is going to appreciate the celebration as much as you. But when there's a little bot that's like, you win, like it helps your little heart and soul, which I know I talk about that all the time, like little precious hearts. But it's a good reinforcer, I think.
It ranges from, hey, I'm replacing time spent in my business to like, hey, I'm making things nicer, right? Like Zapier. Yeah. Zapier can give you the feels, and it can be like an employee in your business. So it's awesome. All
the above.
I can't recommend it enough. Pro Zapier account is like one of the top 10 best investments I've ever made in my life. And so these are the big four. Asana, G Suite, Slack, and Zapier are probably the biggest four apps that we use on a day-to-day basis. But if you're looking for the apps that not just make the business run, but make the marketing run, then a lot of you guys are out there asking, what autoresponder should I get? What website builder should I get? And we've covered this topic a lot, but since we're here, since we're talking about business tools, we might as well kind of reiterate that and touch back up on it.
Is for the expense and as well as for the capability, it's great. Now, there are some things about MailChimp that aren't perfect that I would love to change, especially like their landing pages, their ad campaign builders, even their postcard. Like the things that they're trying to grow lately are a little bit like, I think you're getting ahead of yourself because they're not technically supported with, Pixel and traffic support and all of that stuff that they should be. Their sign-up forms, I don't like their sign-up forms either. But as far as automating and triggering the things that are going to cost you time, with Zapier, it's pretty much everything you could possibly want. So I mean, that's my recommendation. I've also worked in Active Campaign, which is like, it's
pretty badass.
Active Campaign is really, really good. I think it's probably bloat, right? Or more expensive than a lot of musicians need to be spending on their list. Like I wouldn't recommend it until we have like one or two artists who use it and they don't really need it. Like I don't know of anyone who needs its capabilities, but it is badass. Other than that, I've worked in a lot of different autoresponders, and I mean, those two are definitely my favorite. MailChimp is the number one favorite of those two.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. I think like the shortcomings of other apps are similar for MailChimp. Like MailChimp does have bloat. It's just bloat I don't mind because the core promise that I wanted out of it, which was an autoresponder and something I can send broad. So autoresponder meaning I can create automated sequences of emails in it and trigger those automated sequences for different subscribers based on certain criteria. And I can take them out of those automation sequences mid-sequence if I need to and move them to another one or, take them out of it. That all can happen, and it happens very well. So everything else to me is noise because I've been using it for like 5-6 years. So and when they introduced landing pages, I was like, no, thanks, I'm good. And then when they introduced they introduced all these things that are supposed to help you sign up forms, it's like, I'm good. I've been using MailChimp connected to other things for sign-up forms since the beginning. So I really don't mind it. And we like MailChimp. So if you want to get MailChimp, you don't have an autoresponder, you can check the show notes of this episode, indepreneur.io/episode 78 for a link to, I believe, a discounted MailChimp account. But it is free for MailChimp's free features are also like probably what set it above the rest is that you can get all of those core functionalities that we love so much for up to, I think, 500 subscribers or 2,000 emails a month. I thought it was 2,000 emails.
Ooh.
But it's crazy. Whatever it is, it's a lot free. And they're not...
It's a lot free.
They're not... They used to skimp on you couldn't do automated sequences with the free account. And now that's not true anymore. So you can do everything you need to do in terms of email marketing with a free MailChimp account. So it's definitely our top recommendation for people just starting out, and it scales pretty well. You're going to be a huge business before you outrun its feature set. So we love it for that reason. And then I wanted to touch back in on website builders, right? Because last time it was about, I wouldn't say half year, almost a year ago that we talked about website. Are you laughing?
Maybe a little.
Right. So I think did I issue an apology to Bandzoogle? Or not
You
an
did.
apology, but a retraction? I did, yeah. So
did.
Bandzoogle increased their feature set in response to our indies petitioning them for new features. So anytime a company is willing to listen to customer feedback and implement, we got to reward that. Good kudos to
Right.
Bandzoogle for changing
plus,
it up.
like, saying that said, like, it's not easy to, if you're a tech company, like, to like change and write code and get the right developers. Like, it's not just like, it's not like, why didn't you paint that wall red? Where it's just like, yeah, we buy the paint,
especially
we
if
get
you
the
got
brushes,
the
we
word
paint it on.
Zoogle in your name, it's not easy.
Yeah, right. So it's, but I'm saying, like, with the, adding pixel integration into carts, like, and there's the certain things I can tell that they're still struggling with are, the things that would require them to basically rewrite the entire commerce portion of their website builder. And that's not a small project. So it's not something that, even if they are currently working on it, I would expect them to be able to, like, integrate by tomorrow, I mean, that's definitely something that is, like, kind of changing the entire development structure. So, like, I get that some of these changes take time, and there may even be more on the way to, put me in a place where I'm, like, totally down with it. But, as I said in a couple episodes ago, like, wherever your website is, as long as it's pixelable and your store is not dependent on a shoddy website tool, like Wix or Weebly or whatever, build it on Weebly. That's fine. As long as your pixel is there and you can have a store that is not shoddy and is trackable, then you're fine, really. I mean, there's no reason to get too in the weeds on it. But I know Circa has a favorite builder, and it's funny because we had an agency client come in a couple weeks ago who was like, somebody had already designed the website, and it was not like complicated, but there were some very specific aesthetics. And the current site was in Squarespace, and, like, I probably spent too much time in custom CSS with, my knowledge of that, which isn't, I'm not fluent in CSS by any means. Was getting a lot of FitFont on, was in a lot of forums, and as well as integrating some of the things I knew. And I still could not get it to do all of the little things. And that's when, you start realizing, like, okay, if we're really worried about aesthetics, like, there has to be a different solution from Squarespace because it's not super customizable as any of these easy builders. And for that solution, Circa.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to say, like, if you basically want a website that could better be accomplished with a business card or a brochure, and I'm talking like my bio, my links to my music, maybe even some music players, like Squarespace, or Bandzoogle.
Yeah.
Either of those are fine options for that.
Yeah.
If you want something that you can scale into a marketing site, meaning you want to be able to collect email addresses, you want to be able to post content frequently and not have it be a hassle, you want to be able to optimize it for conversions and throw your own, especially
All
load
of
times.
that
You're going to want to
stuff,
start on a framework that can scale like that. Now, we previously recommended ClickFunnels for that purpose, but it doesn't give you some of the more website-y features like a menu, a navigation, because it's built for landing pages, single focus pages that get a user to complete the action you're intending them to complete or leave. Those are the two. So a menu doesn't really speak to that. But I would say now, if you want that website-y feel of it, build on WordPress with Thrive themes. Thrive themes and Thrive plugin suite are how we run our website. They're badass and they're accessible enough for a relatively new user in terms of website design, all the way up to a very, power user like myself. That said, even to today, if you're looking for a website that can serve as your business card, show people media, have blog updates and podcast updates or whatever your recurring content is, and collect opt-ins, then Thrive Themes, Thrive Architect that's all you really need on WordPress. And it's cheaper than a lot of the other options. Now, if you want to add a cart to that, a shopping cart, meaning you can collect credit card information so that users can purchase a given product. Not any product of their choosing, mind you, but just one specific product or two. And then you've got, upsell offers on the back end of that. ClickFunnels integrated into your WordPress is my recommendation. If you want a store where people can pick their own products and check out, Shopify integrated into your WordPress site as a subdomain is our recommendation. And the reason being is that they serve two very different purposes. If you want to do real commerce, but you don't have a huge product set or a huge audience yet, I would recommend getting ClickFunnels, ShareFunnel account, integrating it with a WordPress build so that basically if people visit certain pages on your website, they don't know it, but they're seeing a ClickFunnels page, not a WordPress page. That's the cheapest and easiest way to get started with offering products. And other shopping carts like Samcart and Thrivecart and all these things, they get very, very expensive. So that ClickFunnels option is still going to be the cheapest for you to get sales functionality out of your website. That said, though, like if you just want that business card look, you want a clean look that gives people the relevant information if they're looking for info about you, Squarespace and Bandzoogle are fine. They're fine options.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, and Squarespace is starting to get, I can see them also implementing some stuff development-wise to take them up to the next level. They're definitely, they're starting to integrate more of the marketing stuff. Like their Facebook pixel integration is now firing view content and syncing with product catalogs. And, that was a commerce thing that was not happening before. I still don't love Squarespace as a commerce solution, but they're definitely upping their game as far as that's concerned. I mean, something that I'm seeing develop more and more is, Shopify and MailChimp and Squarespace and all of these companies are now like allowing you to set up like automatic Google ads and stuff, and Facebook ads, some of them. And I don't recommend that. But as these tools, I mean, more and more of these different companies are going to start partnering with each other. And that's just something that, it's going to, try to sell you. So I'd just be, whatever tools that you're using, be cautious about those kinds of upsells or these do it for you kind of services, because chances are it'll look like someone did, or like a bot did it for you. And it won't actually, have you seen actually ManyChat has an ads in beta right now? Have you seen that, Cirque?
No. I can't imagine it's going to be something that I care about though. I love ManyChat as a company, but it's just like anytime some other MarTech company, MarTech meaning marketing technology, anytime some MarTech company is like, oh, we're going to do all of it. It's like, we'll see about that.
That I was really surprised that ManyChat decided to do that because they seem to have been really confident in like, this is our space. We don't need to easy plug. But essentially it was like, an alternative to having to copy and paste JSON code. And I was like, I don't know why copy and paste seems hard to me for you or whatever.
You would have figured that Molly Pittman, formerly of Digital Marketer, is, I believe, their marketer. You figured she would have been like, guys, let's just let people use Business Manager.
Right. Well, and we don't know what the normal customer for ManyChat is. So maybe that is something that they're trying to do. But in any case, just for the sake of testing for indies, which I try to do as much as I can, I was building JSON ads for a client yesterday and tried to get it to go with ManyChat ads. And I mean, I guess, like there was nothing I could do except to set up a whole other flow and push an ad there. And then some of the custom audiences weren't populating right. I mean, it's in beta, so it's not going to be perfect, but like that's another example where it's like, probably just learn the tool instead of having these easy buttons.
Right.
Like, don't be tempted by the easy buttons.
Yeah, definitely. I think as we go on, we're going to see MarTech companies try to broaden their scope, but we need to be vigilant about not being fooled by what
Right.
their core feature set is, right? It's like just
Yeah.
like MailChimp. It's like, I don't need the landing pages, guys. Thank you though.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, but thank you. But no.
Well, even if they had the pixel integration and I could track leads, like at least on Squarespace, I can do a post submit HTML after someone submits their info and it tracks in Facebook. But like, if it doesn't even have that, like just don't call me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Don't call me.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that kind of completes our roundup, but we really wanted the chance to talk about these 4 primary technologies that we do go over in that training, how to run your music business, which is available in Indie Pro right now. So Asana, Slack, G Suite, and Zapier. Those are probably the tools that we use besides Facebook ads and Thrive Suite that get the most action. We're using those every single day. They pretty much run. There are managers like, Corrin will tell you, I'm not a manager. Asana and Slack are the managers.
Oh,
right?
for sure. Yeah. They're telling us what to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. We have a ton of links for this episode in the show notes. If you go to indepreneur.io/episode 78, you can check out all of the resources that we've left there. And if you guys are watching this on YouTube, please leave us a comment and subscribe. We're just launching this channel, so we're eager to get some feedback about these videos and everything going down on Full Stack Creative. So make sure to do that. Check that out. And besides that, I guess we'll see you next week on Creative Juice.